Welcome back everyone, and welcome to today's class. The code we have done this far has been pretty basic in terms of user interface. It has been lines of text sent to the user and lines of text sent from the user to the program. And there have been no colors, and everything has been added line by line. You probably want to do something a little bit more fancier if you're gonna publish your code. And then there is a library called Ncurses. This is commonly used among different Linux console tools. And with this you can create an interface like this, like Nano. You will have access to the entire screen and not just the next line. You may change the background and use colors, and you may move your cursor wherever on the screen and put the text there. So you have greater control about your screen. So let's start by creating a little first Ncurses file. Let's just call it ncurses.c, and we create the header. This time we're not going to include the stdio, because the stdio is the printf and the scanf and all of those, and they are using the standard input-output. That is the stuff we have used this far. Ncurses is an alternative to the standard IO library. So we will just include ncurses.h. In this example, we're going to create a program that will print something on the screen, a question to the user, and tell the user to press a key. Then we are going to print on the screen what key they chose. So let's create a char that we call letter, and Ncurses is based on something called Windows, and it's not Windows like we know Windows in Mac OS or in Windows. A window is the entire screen, the entire contents of a screen. So maybe you can have several of these. So you do one task in one screen and then you shift totally to the next, kind of like I'm doing here with my screen tool. And that means the first thing you're going to do is initialize the screen or the default window. And you do that by referencing this function, initialize screen. And if you use several screens, all the commands that we're going to use, all the functions we are going to call, can be made to happen on a specific screen. It doesn't have to be the active screen, the one that is showing to the user, but you can make changes to any screen and then show it at a later time. But in this example, we will only use the default screen, one screen. So we will not pass an argument like that to the functions. Okay, instead of the printf, we'll use printw, and that is Ncurses' own printf function. You can't really combine the printf and the printw. You need to choose one, and if you were using Ncurses, you should always use the printw. So I will tell the user to press any key, and I don't need to end this with a new line, because there really isn't such a thing as new lines, because we have control over the entire screen. Okay, so when you have printed something on the screen or modified anything on the screen, you need to refresh it. Before you refresh it, it won't be seen by the user. So you just call refresh like this. And now that print any key message will be present on the screen for the user to see. Then we will use a function called getch. It works basically like the standard library's getChar function, if you use that you read one char from the user. But getch is Ncurses version of that, and it's a little more advanced. You can not just read like A, B, C or numbers. You can also read like left arrow and escape and stuff like that. We need to take care of the return value from the getch so we can use it in our next print to the screen. Okay, so now we want to clear the screen. That's also something that you cannot easily do with the standard library. There are methods, though. You can send a specially crafted string to the screen and it will clear, and you can also call like Linux's clear command through the system or execv functions. But in Ncurses, you just do clear. Very easy. Okay, here's our next print W. We will tell you pushed, and then we will put the variable that we used for the return value from getch. And don't forget to refresh the screen after you have printed to it. Then I will put another getch, because if we end our program here, we won't see the last print W, because when we end the program, the window destroys. So if we want to see this one, we would have to put a getch so the user can press a key and then exit. And we destroy the window by endwin and then return 0. And if we try to compile this one, okay, I don't seem to have Ncurses installed. Let me just install that real quick. There, let's do it again. Okay, this time it went through the first parts of the compilation progress, but as you can see, it doesn't find these commands. There's these functions. There's an undefined reference, and that's because when you compile like this, we will only find the functions in the standard libraries, the libc as it's called. If we use external libraries like the Ncurses library, we would have to tell the GCC compiler that we want to include that library. It's not enough with just the header file. So we type L for library and then the name of the library, like this. And this time it compiled. Let's see what it does. Okay, it shows press any key. I will press the J key. You pushed J and then enter. So today we have learned to use the new library, for us anyway, the lib Ncurses. We have learned how to initialize the screen, how to use the print W in order to print something on the screen, and that we always need a refresh after that. We have learned the getch function that reads one character from the keyboard, the clear to clear the screen, the print W again, refresh, and then getch another time. And then we have learned end win, which destroys the window. We have also learned the basics of understanding the window system, which is basically a whole screen and several of those that you can have and shift between them and add stuff to them and circulate between them. We'll do that a little bit more in a later at a later lecture, perhaps. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome to today's lecture. Last time we talked a little bit about lib Ncurses, which is a library that gives us more control over the screen and where to print and what to print where and how to do it, and the use of different windows and colors and stuff like that. Last time we only used it to read a character from the keyboard and to print something at the top left of the screen. Today we're going to use the X and Y coordinates in order to print something where we want it on the screen, and also to read where the cursor currently is. Okay, so let's call this one Ncurses2.c. And just like last time, the only thing that we are going to include is our Ncurses.h. We'll jump right into the main function. Sorry. And this time I will create two int variables, x and y, so we can control the coordinates of the screen. We will initialize our default screen and clear it. Then I want to use the getYX function. And it does basically what it says. It locates the cursor on the screen, the current position of the cursor, and it gets the X and Y coordinates. And it takes three arguments. The first is the screen. So if we have several screens or windows, we could give this different values, but we do only have the standard screen, and that's what we'll put in there. And then we put our two variables beginning with y, so we can receive the coordinates. Then I will use print w in order to print it out on the screen. And I will do it like this, so it's a little bit easier for me to read. And as you can see, one can still use line breaks, even with print W. But we don't need to end this line with a line break. We can, but it wouldn't make much sense. So we will take the x first and then the y, like this. And don't forget, always refresh. I will put a little bit more code here later on, but for now I will just put a get, an end win, and the return 0. So we can try out this one and see how it works. And don't forget to add the -l Ncurses to the GCC. Compiled. And now I overwrote the last binary file, but that's no problem. Okay, so the x coordinate is 0 from the start and y is 0. We could have figured that out, but now we'll know. So let's jump right back into our code. And we will make some room here. And this time I want to change the x and y coordinates and print something on the screen. So first I will edit this, so y is 5 and x is 10. This means 5 lines down and 10 characters to the right. Then I will use the move function, and that basically moves the cursor so that print w will print there next time we use it. And we begin with the I coordinate, and then we print w, and I'll just take a random message like this and refresh, and then save. Okay, so as you can see, first it's x0, y0, and I accidentally pressed the key. x0, y0, and then we change it to x10, y5, so 5 down and 10 to the right. And then we print our message. It works just fine. So today we have learned how to use the get y-ax in order to receive the current position of the cursor. We have learned how to move the cursor, and we have learned that print w uses that move in order to print on that position. And that's basically it. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's lecture. This is the third episode about the Ncurses library, and today we are gonna be trying to create something a little bit more graphical. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. And we will try to communicate with the user through the arrow keys on the keyboard. So let's create a file called arrow.c, and we will include our ncurses.h. We will put everything in our main function, and this time we're gonna need 3 different int variables. One that we will call key, one x, and one y. And we begin as usual by initializing the screen. This time we're gonna use one more function for changing the settings. So we're gonna use the keypad function. And it takes two arguments. The first is the screen, and we are going to be affecting the standard screen. And then it's true or false. True enables it, and false disables it. And it's disabled by default. And what is keypad? Well, if you look on your keyboard and you don't have one of these tiny ones, then you most probably have a numpad to the right with 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 9 and a star and a plus and an enter. The keypad function enables this part of the keyboard, and that is necessary for us to be using the arrow keys, even though the arrow keys aren't necessarily located there. We still need the keypad for this to work. And we're going to use another settings function called no echo, and that is basically what it sounds like. If we are reading from the keyboard with like get or any other function, it usually echoes what we type to the keyboard. No echo disables that. And I will zero out our x and y variables. And if you're not familiar with this type of way of doing it, this means that both x and y will equal 0. So we set both variables at the same time. Alright, so what I want to do is first clear the screen, and then I want to move to the top left corner, and I want to print a message. So press left or right arrow and exit by pressing Q. That's our message. Then I want to move to the current position according to our y and x coordinates, and at the moment we are on the top. No, let's do it like this. I will set these to 5 instead, so we're not messing with our message. Okay, so it will move 5 lines down and 5 lines to the right as a starting position. And I didn't put a refresh here because we can do multiple print W's and then do a refresh. It won't be seen on the screen until we do a refresh, but we can prepare the screen and then refresh. Okay, so we move to that position, and then I will just print a big O. That's the little thing that we will be moving around on the screen. And then I refresh. And now I will call the get and put the return value in our key variable. And if the key equals key left, that is a definition, a constant definition that's from the Ncurses.h file. So basically this is a number that reads from the keyboard that corresponds to the key left. So if we press key left, then I want to decrease the x, which means we will be moving to the left of the screen, one step. But if x is less than 0, then I will set it to 0, because we don't want to try to be moving outside of the screen. And then we'll do an else if the key is key right. And I will only make this code so that we can move to the left and to the right, not up and down. But that's easy to add using the same techniques. But this time we will increase the x, and if x is more than, let's say, 50, no, we'll just do 30. X equals 30, so it stops there. Okay, then I want to put all this in a loop, so I will just jump out a little bit. And where was I? Here. Okay, and how long do we want to loop? We want to loop as long as key isn't Q. So as soon as key is Q, i.e. when the user presses Q, we will break out of the loop and we will exit our program. So after this loop, we only have the end win and the return 0. Let's see if everything is right. We will compile this code and add the lib Ncurses. It compiled. Let's start. Okay, so press left or right arrow, exit by pressing Q, and then there's a little blob here. If I press left, oh, that's quite a jump there. Did I put these on the wrong side? Let's see. If x is less than 0, x equals 0. If x is more than 30, oh, this shouldn't be there. Let's try it again. We move left, we move right. If we go to the 0 position, we can't move any further. And if we go to the 20 position, or 30, I don't remember which it was, we can't move any further. We can't move up and down, but maybe that's something for you to add. You just modify the y parameter instead of the x, or in addition to, rather. And we quit by pressing Q. So, what have we learned today? We have learned that we need to use the keypad function in order to use the arrow keys. We have learned the no echo, so when we use the get function, it doesn't echo out onto the screen, the character we type. We have also learned how to use get return value and compare it to these constants. And then we just use the move function and print w function that we have already learned in order to move this cursor on the screen. So as you can see, it's quite easy to do simple graphical stuff with lib Ncurses. Thanks for watching, and thanks for today.